So I'm going to start sharing my screen in a moment, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Jo Hand and I'm a co-founder of Giki, and Giki, we're a social enterprise. Giki stands for Get Informed, Know Your Impact, and we're all about helping individuals understand and reduce their environmental impacts. So I'm going to share, can you see that?
We can indeed.
Excellent. So I'm going to talk today about really taking your first steps to a sustainable lifestyle. And I would assume as you're on the call, you may have already taken those some of the first steps, but I'm going to talk you through what we can all do individually and why it's so important. So a brief introduction to Giki. We set up in 2017. We're a social enterprise, which means that our purpose sits front and center of everything that we do, and our mission is to help people live more sustainably. We have a free supermarket scanning app, which helps people understand the impacts and the environmental credentials of all of our supermarket products. So you just scan the barcode and it shows you how the product performs against lots of different indicators like carbon footprint, palm oil, nutrition, animal welfare. But we always wanted to go beyond that, and people told us, tell me about my whole lifestyle. I want to do the right thing, but people often, people really want to do the right thing now, I think, around climate, and more people do, but actually knowing what right looks like is often really difficult. So that's why we built Giki Zero, which I will show you shortly. But in essence, it enables you to understand and cut your carbon footprint and work in the longer term towards a net zero lifestyle. So this graph shows the challenge we have ahead of us. It shows carbon emissions and how they've gone up since the Industrial Revolution, and where we need to get to by 2030 and where we need to get to by 2050, which is net zero. So clearly policy is absolutely crucial to this, and business transformation likewise. But as individuals, we have a major role to play as well. And actually around 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions come from individuals and households. So in the UK, this is what it looks like on average. On average, our footprint here is around 9 tonnes per person per year, and that's based on consumption. And the key largest components tend to be our homes, what we eat and how we get around, although this would vary person by person. But we need to get from this 9 tonnes in 2020 to just 2.5 tonnes by 2030 to be in line with keeping temperature rise below that all-important 1.5 degrees, which the scientists say is so crucial to avoid climate change spiralling out of control. So there are big tasks ahead, but also plenty of opportunities. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about we have choices, and the choices that we make are crucial. And within Giki Zero, we've got a function that is quite fun called the climate clock. Now everybody has their own personal climate clock, which shows that if everybody in the world had the same footprint as you, this is how long we've got before the carbon budget runs out to keep temperature rise below that 1.5 degrees. Now, globally, we've got roughly 10 years before that carbon budget runs out. But we wanted to see what the impact would be if everybody had the same emissions as the top 1% of emitters in the world. And we would have around 9 months left if we all lived as the top 1% do. If we all lived like Jeff Bezos, we would have just 9 days left. And if we were like Abramovich with his super yachts, it would be gone by the end of today. So I wanted to share this because it's quite fun, but also because it shows the choices that we have. And everybody has choices in terms of what we buy, how we live. We maybe don't. Most people don't have as many choices as Jeff Bezos and Abramovich, but there are many different ways to live our lives, and we thought this was quite a fun way to show that. The good news is we can get to a Paris-aligned lifestyle already. We recently completed some research with Dr. Richard Carmichael at Imperial College London to really look at what is a practical pathway to net zero for people. You know, what does it actually look like? And we took all of the steps within Giki Zero, of which there are around 130, and segmented them into reduced steps, which are all about reducing what we do in terms of, for example, you know, cutting back on the amount of miles that we drive, or the amount of time, the amount of flights that we take every year. Replace steps, which are all about swapping and switching. So that could be anything from swapping to renewable electricity, swapping red meat components of our diet to pulses or vegetables, for example, so these two steps, these two combinations of steps, the reduced steps and the replace steps, can actually already get us pretty close to that Paris aligned 2.5 ton lifestyle. It gets us to about 3 tons roughly. To get to net zero today, the chances are that we would need to do what we call repair steps, which are all about restoration of nature, really. Trees and oceans and peatlands all play a crucial role in taking carbon out of the atmosphere, actually, and absorbing carbon. So they're a very good short-term fix to take some of that carbon out of the atmosphere, and repair steps are at the moment necessary to get to net zero, but actually you can do a huge amount just in terms of lifestyle changes to cut your footprint. So I wanted just to talk you through Giki Zero actually, and how it works. And I think one thing that's really important for us as individuals is we don't think in terms of 2050 or 2030, which is what businesses and policymakers think in terms of, and the race to zero, which is championed by the COP26 high-level champions, which we're working with them around helping individuals reduce their carbon footprints. That their target is for the world to reach net zero by 2050 at the very latest. But actually we think in terms of months and years. So we're encouraging everybody and helping everybody to cut a ton off their footprint in 21, which would be a really good start to help get towards where we need to get to in the longer term. So in terms of your first step on a sustainable lifestyle, this is a really good one to start with. And I'm now just going to share how you can do it. So if I just bring up Giki Zero now, so I'm going to put in the chat the link, but hopefully you're seeing Giki Zero here. So here, what the aim of Giki Zero is really to help people understand and reduce their carbon footprint. So there are some sort of key components here that are important to help get people to where they need to get to. So on this account with this fictitious person, Joe, who happens to have the same name as me but isn't, what we show is how your carbon footprint breaks down. So it is all based on information that you put into Giki Zero. And then when you first sign up, we ask a few simple questions to help us give you an initial estimate of what your carbon footprint is. And then you can toggle through and see how that breaks down in terms of different parts of your lifestyle. So you can see this person actually has, you know, quite an unusual footprint in that the transport piece is quite small, but the food and the services piece is quite big. So if we look into footprints, they can then go in and make some changes. For example, here, so within the footprints area, this is one of the most detailed carbon footprint calculators that exists, but we've tried to make it really easy to use. So you can really fill in as much or as little information as you like. And what the way that the modeling works is that you can either put in an estimate of your diet in this case, but if we're talking about your home, you put in the type of home and answer a few questions there. Or if you have a real appetite for data input and putting information, you can actually go in and say, provide detail on every single type of food that you eat. Now, most people prefer the estimate. So say this person's going to go from eating everything to being, let's try vegetarian. And then they're going to, no, I don't think they're going to grow the majority of their fruit and veg, but let's say they're organic and eat locally grown and eat in season. Then we're going to save that, and that will then show how that changes your carbon footprint. And then the next, we also actually, for fun, footprinted every breed of dog. So let's add sometimes wonder what some of these breeds are. Let's try a Welsh Corgi and see how that shapes up. Reasonable amount, but definitely important to include all members of the family. Then the next crucial step is, what can you actually do about it? And I think that this is to the point that it's really hard to know where to start. Actually, if you can find steps that are right for you and that fit your lifestyle and budget, then everybody's far more likely to actually want to make these changes. So here there are over 130 different steps that you can filter on area of your lifestyle, how easy or difficult they are, and what their impact is on the planet. So for each one, you can then dig in and get more information and get some ideas and tips and benefits and some useful links. And also we show the other areas of, environmental factors, or indeed personal factors in this case, that it can help, because, sometimes it's good to have a little extra incentive or extra reason as to why we might want to do something. And a lot of them do actually help save money as well. About 40% of the steps in here have saving money as one of the additional benefits. So, and then you can say, I'm going to try this, and that will all help boost your Giki score. So I started going into Giki by talking about encouraging everybody to cut a ton in 21 this year. And what happens when you click on the cut a ton in 21 step is that then you get your own little personal carbon tracker, which shows how you're doing against that target. And that can always help you keep track and see how you're doing. And what would be amazing is if, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people cut a ton before COP26, and we're able to, show governments across the world that people are ready to act, and what better incentive to encourage our governments to do what's really needed in Glasgow and beyond, because it can sometimes seem insurmountable to deal with the challenges that we're facing, but actually, small steps can lead to big things, and that driving momentum and talking to other people about what you've learned, why this is important, and actually frequently why this actually can help in terms of improved lifestyle is, I'm just going to stop sharing, is something that we hear quite a lot from people, that actually a more sustainable lifestyle can actually bring high levels of contentment and better quality of life. So I think there are lots of benefits that we're not always aware of, and often save money as well, because one of the challenges of one of the reasons why we face the crisis we face is that often we have lots of extra stuff that we don't really need and do lots of things, and life's very busy, and actually just slowing down and making more sustainable choices can really help with general well-being as well. So I wanted to just leave 10 minutes or so for any questions or comments if anybody would like to ask anything specific about, ways to get started, or it can very much depend on whether you're a student or whether you're a member of staff. There are different steps that are relevant to different people, so I'd be very happy to talk about that or anything else.
That was fantastic. Thanks, Joe. I've been using your app recently, and it's taught me a few extra things that I can do, so that's good. We do have one question from Kate. Do you have anything similar for small businesses?
Yes, we do, but our focus is very much about individual footprints. So we don't have a tool for businesses to measure their operational footprint, but we do have a pro version for any organisation actually to work really collectively to cut carbon together. Actually, we track carbon, water, land use, and single-use plastics, so you can see everything that you've achieved together. And I think that can be very empowering for people, because I think sometimes the challenges can be around this feeling that, what can I do individually? What difference can that actually make? And seeing what you're doing with other people that or work with, or have some sort of connection with, can be a great incentivizer. And sorry, another question's popped up. So yes, that's the way that we do work with organisations and businesses. Kate's saying, yeah, just small, just like a couple of us in the business. I mean, the reality is, to work out the footprint of a couple of you in the business, it very much depends what the business is. But if you're working from home and you're on a computer, those, if your services business, then those are probably the key components. If you're making something or creating something, then there'd be a footprint associated with that, which would obviously have an impact. If you're manufacturing, that obviously can have potentially big carbon impacts, but it very much depends on what the business is.
And from what I understand, from what you told me previously, Joe, you're always open to ideas for new steps to be submitted by people as well.
Yeah, very much so. No, we always like to hear new ideas. And I think when we launched Giki Zero in May of last year, and I think we started with about 100 steps, and we've now got 130. So we're always adding new ones. And some of them are very, very simple to start with, which really is much about getting the mindset change, for want of a better word. So a really popular first step is put lids on the saucepans when you cook, which, when you say it, it's like, yeah, we was taught that because it's more efficient and the water or whatever it is you're cooking boils faster. But actually, it's quite a very small way, but a good way to save a bit of gas or electric. And that's one of the, actually was, when we first started, one of the most popular ones. The cut a ton in 21 is now the most popular step. And then, they range from put lids on your saucepan to things like not buying new clothes and buying secondhand instead, because in the UK we buy about 30 different pieces of clothing on average each per year. And then if we cut that so that we actually bought half of those secondhand, that could make, that shaves 1/4 of a ton off your carbon footprint every year. So it's quite it is quite significant.
So we've had a question of how many people are currently actively using the app in the UK?
I would say, I think we're at about 10,000 now, and that figure sort of doubles every few months. So yeah, we're just starting out. But in terms of Geeky Badges app, I think we've probably got about 60,000 people now using that, which has been going for a bit longer. And I think it's, I think it's really interesting as well, the different types of organization who are, or sorry, different types of people who are using it, and organizations actually, that it is becoming more and more mainstream as an issue. I think there's another question just come through.
Yeah. What is your objective for this year? For this
So,
year?
so our long-term objective is to have, thousands, millions of people using this across the globe to reduce their carbon. And our aim is to take millions of tons of carbon out of the atmosphere. That's very much our focus. This year, we are launching a global version because the data that sits behind Giki Zero is UK data at the moment, although you can use it anywhere in the world. So we're launching a global version and a US version in the next month or so, and then various key European economies in the months up to the summer. And then also we'll be constantly adding new enhancements and different ways to really make it more and more useful for people. We're very much user led, so we always appreciate feedback in terms of how you found it, so that we can keep improving, and working with organizations of all shapes and forms actually to help staff or students or a real spectrum of different individuals reduce their footprint together. And I think that's what doing these things together as part of a community is a great motivator for people, and that's definitely something that we want to do more of.
You certainly predicted my question just then about the different data sets for around the globe. So it's really good to hear that that's something that's in the works. The other thing that I'm aware you do is the occasional kind of seasonal things, so like around Christmas as well. So adding in specific ones for holidays.
Yes, we do. Every month there's a new challenge that sits at the top of your progress page to really apply a kind of green filter to everyday life, so that you don't have to sort of step outside your regular life and think about sustainability. It can be embedded in what we do every day, and I think that's really important. So this month we've got springy steps, and next month we've got planet saving steps to mark Earth Day, which is on April the 22nd. And Earth Day has always been a big, ever growing kind of climate campaign day. But this year, the Biden administration in the US are actually holding a global leaders summit on climate to mark Earth Day. So I think it should be a really big one this year. So I think that's a good place to start if you're tempted to start doing some bigger steps. And we'll be suggesting some in April on the progress page in Giki Zero.
Yes, it's certainly fantastic to see the United States rejoining the rest of the world on taking this task, as they are one of the top 2 emitters globally. So I can see that Claire is currently typing. Yeah. Are you able? Oh, sorry. Yeah, just asking about making a recording. Yes, this is being recorded, Claire.
And I think the other steps that I was just going to touch on, if you're really up for a challenge, is looking at things like bank accounts and pensions, because there's a lot of hidden carbon there, really, and we often don't think about it. But in our bank accounts, obviously depending on who you bank with, but for every £100 that might be in a regular current account on the regular high street bank, up to around £2 can be invested in fossil fuel companies. So when the money sits, your paycheck or whatever sits in your regular bank account, it doesn't just sit there. It tends to be lent out to clients of the bank. So understanding the way it's used can be quite informative in guiding who you might decide that you want to have your bank account with, and those kind of areas are getting increasing focus, actually, which is excellent, and there's real momentum there to try and help pension providers and banks actually, or encourage pension providers and banks, I should say, to provide lower carbon alternatives. So I would say that if you're really keen to get your teeth into something really big and that is not commonly thought about, that can be a good one to look at as well.
Yeah, that nicely segues into the fact that I have a Sustainability 102 event at 1 o'clock this afternoon, talking about kind of the next steps beyond kind of the basics that people can do. So looking at banks, pensions, that sort of things, and some of the many other ones as well. It's great that people are doing a lot of the stuff in their day-to-day lives, but for many people they've done that, and they can now take the time to look at those kind of next, maybe potentially harder steps, or at least harder in the mind, to work towards. Joe has put, I really like the info tabs that sit behind each step.
Oh, thank you. That's really useful feedback. And I think, it's always a balance between giving people the right amount of information, but it not being too overwhelming, and also it being available at a time that you actually want to look at it. Because yes, it's often you look at a step and you're like, what does that actually mean for me? Can I do it? Do I want to do it? What's its impact? So to be able to dig in a bit more detail, it helps you decide whether or not it's right for you.
Yeah, I'd agree with Joe on that. The information there is absolutely fantastic, and when you're looking at it, as you said, having that extra bit of information as to why it's important is important in of itself as well. Which is fantastic. Are there any other questions at all? Give people a last chance before we finish off the event.
Well,
I think they were probably all sat at home downloading it at the moment, or kind of logging in.
Yeah, I will just put. I'm just going to put the address in the.
Would you like to say the address as well, Joe?
Sorry.
Would you like to say the address as well for the?
Yes, I will. It's if you just put Giki 0 into your search function, it will come up, but it's geeky.0.earth. So yeah, do go and have a play around with it, and I hope you have fun with it. And I'm sure nobody will have a climate clock as short as Jeff Bezos or Abramovich.
I like the openness of the search function there, as you do promote use of Ecosia via one of the steps as well, which is one of the search browsers that you can use that plant trees for your searches, which is fantastic.
Yeah, they're really good.
Okay, well, thank you very much to Joe for coming along today and explaining Giki to us, and hopefully everybody attending will take this up and run with it, and also share it with everybody else, because that's the main thing. We need as many people using it and understanding what they need to do as possible.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me, and good luck with the rest of the event.
Thank you.
Really good to see you all. Thank you.
Have a fantastic day, everyone.